Filthy old man. I bet you don't even know what this is, yelled the millionaire, lifting the red Ferrari key like it was a trophy, while a circle of laughter closed in around the man in torn clothes. The noise of the avenue seemed to fade, like the city held its breath. Engines rumbled in the distance, street vendors pushed carts. A stray dog dug into a trash bag, but right there, on that patch of hot asphalt, it all narrowed down to a curious crowd, a flashy rich guy, and a starving old man with his stomach growling. "Go on, take it then!" The millionaire tossed the key, which cut through the air and hit the ground with a metallic clink. "If you can start that car, it's yours." The laughter hit like a punch. Someone filmed on their phone, another whistled. A girl in dark glasses muttered, "This will blow up on reels," while the old man, bent and with fingers stained with old grease that looked like tattoos, bent down slowly. He moved with a strange care, like each gesture carried a memory. He didn't grab the key right away. First he stared at it, then picked it up as if collecting a piece of dignity tossed aside. "Come on, Fossil, we don't have all day," mocked one of the millionaire's friends, a guy in a pale shirt with a shiny bracelet on his wrist. The old man lifted his head. His eyes carried the color of time-worn things, a faded brown, but with a steady spark that had survived. He looked across each face. No anger, just hunger, fatigue, memory, and a kind of inner silence that clashed with the noise outside. "If I start it, it's mine." His voice came out rough, but steady. The millionaire smirked, polished and rehearsed, the kind that had crushed plenty of people before. He looked flawless. A watch worth as much as an apartment, spotless shoes, a shirt sitting just right. Behind him, the red Ferrari stood out like a chunk of fire parked in plain sight. "I already said it, didn't I? If you start it, it's yours, and I'll kneel right here, in front of everyone." More laughter. Someone repeated, "He's gonna kneel," like it was too good a joke not to be spread everywhere. A child tugged her mother's arm to see better. The sun was dipping, throwing long shadows on the ground, and the car's body reflected a glare that almost burned in the eyes. The old man rolled the key in his palm, feeling its weight. He walked closer to the car, and as he passed by the millionaire, caught the expensive cologne, that clean smell of someone who never sweated for survival. He said nothing, just pressed his hand flat on the car's side for a second, like greeting a wild horse. "Careful, you'll scratch it," a girl warned with a mocking laugh. The Ferrari had a presence that felt almost alive. The old man scanned the details. The curve of the hood, the perfect spacing between the headlights, the emblem etched like an old signature. There was something there he knew deeply, though no one else needed to find out. Not yet. Give him a manual," joked the guy with the bracelet, drawing more laughs. "Better yet, call a priest." "Relax, Raoul," said the millionaire, grin intact. "This is just a little street show. People love a miracle, but not today. This car's got a digital security key. Without the pairing module, it won't start. He doesn't even know what that is." The old man kept his hand on the car like he was listening. Somewhere beneath the perfect red paint, he seemed to hear time itself. A true mechanic reads with his fingers. The texture speaks, the vibration tells, the warmth confides. His stomach growled, and he drew in a breath as if swallowing the hunger with sheer will. "What's wrong, Gramps? Scared? If you fail, belly dance," shouted someone, followed by claps of mockery. "Go ahead," the millionaire repeated. "Look, you put the key here. Try to start it, embarrass yourself, and that's it. Then we go eat. Wanna try?" The old man looked at the key. For a moment, his face lost all signs of weariness. He straightened up. Standing tall was rebellion in itself. He didn't need to look big. He only needed to look whole. "I want to try." Silence. Heavy silence, the kind that drops when the crowd senses a joke might turn into something else. The old man opened the door with care, like he knew even doors had their quirks. The leather seat gave a faint creak. He sat slowly, settling his back, his left hand resting on the wheel without rush. One of the guys pushed his phone camera closer to the glass. The reflection of the sky scratched the surface like a bluish film. The girl with the dark glasses slid them down just a bit, more out of curiosity than respect. And the millionaire, arms crossed, tilted his chin like he was already watching his own victory unfold. Inside, the car was a temple of detail. Tiny stitches, tight gauges, a faint smell of leather and old fuel. The old man closed his eyes for a second. His ear chased the sound of engines from other days, like calling back a choir of machines he once knew well. He placed the key in the slot, but didn't turn it. First, he slid his fingers under the dash, tracing an invisible path. "Look at that! He's gonna give the car CPR," someone joked, and the crowd let out a short laugh, already less sure. The millionaire hurried to explain, like a teacher talking to beginners. "This model doesn't work without the paired token. No point trying. The module talks to the key. It's encryption, people. This isn't some car from the 90s. "And what if it is?" The question came from the back, from a man pushing a fruit cart. No one answered. The old man opened his eyes. In them lived a memory of the shop. Smell of oil, of metal, of hot steel, voices of co-workers, the steady beat of hammers. Whole nights chasing a noise until finding a stubborn bolt. He remembered the first engine he built with his own hands, the day a boss told him, "An engine is music. If you learn to listen, you'll never get lost again." Hunger from now mixed with the abundance of then. He turned the key a few millimeters. Still nothing. His right hand touched a certain point under the steering column, feeling the outline of a cover almost no one would notice. "Looking for candy, old man?" teased the guy with the bracelet, though his voice wasn't so sure anymore. The old man took a deep breath. He pulled back his hand, rested it on the wheel, and stared at the dash as if reading a book. Time inside there had a different beat. The whole world pressed a button and expected a miracle. Not him. He knew machines were creatures of habit. They tell you everything if you just shut up and listen. Outside, the heat rose from the asphalt. The millionaire checked his watch for the first time, an impatient move that betrayed control. New people gathered, asking what was going on, and someone explained, always with a hint of malice. "Bit, the old guy's trying to start his Ferrari. If he does, he wins. If not, he dances." The word dances bounced back like a cheap song. "What's wrong, champ? Forget how to use a key." The millionaire leaned in, raising his voice so everyone heard. The old man turned his face to him without anger. "You said if I started, it's mine." "I said that. And you'd kneel." "Said that too. And I repeat, I'll kneel. But you won't start it. You don't even know what to look for." The old man went back to the dash. He touched a frame very lightly. His finger found a tiny gap, almost invisible between two fittings. A minor flaw, harmless, but something regular eyes would never catch. He closed his hand, like squeezing an unseen handshake. "That's decoration, sir," mocked the girl with glasses. "Just trim." He didn't reply. His left hand held the key again. This time he breathed deeper, letting the air out slow, like before surgery. He turned it a bit. The dash lit up with a steady glow, soft like the car had opened an eye. A few "oh" slipped out quick, but a second later the dash went dark. Laughter. The millionaire clapped slowly, annoyingly. "Close, huh? Just missed everything." The child who had tugged her mother earlier stepped forward, amazed. "Mom, is he talking to the car?" The mother pulled her back. "Stay here." The old man leaned his forehead on the wheel for a moment. Maybe he was tired. Maybe he just wanted to recall a smell. The leather had memories. Cars carry the touch of those who handle them. He pressed his ear, like searching for a whisper. His right hand moved again near the column, but not at the same spot. Now his fingers hunted for a faint tremor, a subtle presence of current, something only years beside machines could teach. "That's enough," said the millionaire, annoyed. "I've got a meeting. Out of the way." "Let him," someone from the crowd said suddenly. Let the man try. That simple request cracked the theater of mockery. Because there, among people who didn't even know each other's names, a real curiosity lit up. And curiosity, when it's honest, pushes cruelty aside. Even if just for a few minutes. The millionaire laughed again, but it was short, automatic. "Fine, 1 more minute. Then we're done." The old man lifted his head. Sweat marked his forehead, but his eyes were sharper. He tapped the ignition button without pressing, just to feel its play. Then he placed the key in the slot with less than a quarter turn. The dash blinked twice and died. The same pattern. Someone whispered, "See? Doesn't work." He clenched his fist, like sealing a deal with himself. His mind drifted somewhere else. An old garage, a workbench, a radio playing a worn-out song, co-workers in greasy coveralls, laughs, heated debates about torque and mix, a cold night fixing a glitch between electronic modules, a code that refused to sync, the discovery that under certain conditions the circuit listened better if his fingers stopped in the exact spot. The left hand steadied the key. The right pressed a subtle, tiny point under the column. It wasn't strength, it was touch. It was listening. It was answering what the car asked. "He's gonna break it," said the guy with the bracelet, his tone split between fear and hoping it failed. The old man held his touch. Time stretched. The laughs faded. The city outside stayed the city, but that circle was frozen in a heavy electric hush. The millionaire took a step, curious against his own will. Phones leaned closer, as if being nearer could change the ending. The old man breathed once, twice, 3 times, turned the key 2 millimeters, stopped, went back, turned again, even less. The dash lit and stayed. A steady glow ran across the gauges. A needle shifted a hair's width and held. The crowd held its breath. The millionaire, too. The old man didn't smile. He only confirmed to himself that the car had listened, that the bridge was built, that maybe now it was possible. "Oh, go on then. Start it," barked the millionaire, louder than needed, trying to grab back control of his own show. The old man placed his thumb on the start button, still without pressing. He glanced at the mirror and saw kids, vendors, bystanders, even the dog sitting like part of the jury. He faced forward again. That dash wasn't just tech. It was a tongue he spoke, not a relic, a dialogue. The millionaire leaned in, restless. "Quit stalling. Hit it. Give the people a laugh." The old man pressed the button. The sound didn't come, not yet. First came a faint murmur, a soft inner click, the kind of sound nobody notices, except someone who knows. And it says plenty. The old man kept the exact pressure, no overdoing, no shake. An electric echo ran through the system. A quiet test confirmed the match between key and module. The dash stayed steady. The murmur repeated, twice, then stopped. "It failed," whispered someone. The old man released the button slowly. The dash stayed lit, like saying, "I'm here." He drew in another breath, his fingers searching again for the same mix as before, the hidden spot, the measure no one else caught. The millionaire stepped closer, almost against the glass. "Scared, old man?" This time, the old man looked him straight in the eyes. No challenge, no hate, just a calm certainty, something money can't buy. "No." And without rush, but with resolve, he set his hand, found the point, pinched the millimeter, turned the key to the exact mark, and stopped. The moment stretched thin. The whole crowd leaned forward, like some unseen pull dragged them into the same center. The city vanished. The sun seemed to hang above their heads. Phones shook in hands. The millionaire bit the edge of his lip. The old man closed his eyes for 1 second, only one, and when he opened them, he wasn't a hungry old man at the wheel of a Ferrari. He was a man facing a creature that knew its real owner. He brushed the button, barely touched it, and the silence grew so full it was almost possible to hear every heartbeat. The sound that came next would decide if that old man walked away disgraced, or if the whole street learned, once and for all, that arrogance can't buy wisdom. The sharp click that echoed inside the Ferrari wasn't just a button pressed. It was the sign something was about to shift. The old man, still with steady hands on the wheel and eyes shut for a blink, breathed like carrying a lifetime in his chest. Outside, the laughter had faded. Not gone, but weaker. No longer the safe chuckle of a crowd mocking without fear. Now it was a mix of curiosity and unease. "Well, is it going to start or not?" poked the millionaire, trying to break the tension. His voice came out louder than it should, giving away that behind the mocking grin there was a trace of fear. The old man didn't answer. He turned the key 1 millimeter more, caught a new click, then eased back. It was like he wasn't just trying to start the machine, but talking with it, as if asking for its consent. The people around glanced at one another. A girl who had laughed before whispered to her friend, "He's taking long, because he doesn't know, right?" But her friend, eyes locked on the scene, shook her head. "No. Look at his hands. People who don't know get shaky. He hasn't shaken once." The millionaire snapped his fingers, dragging all eyes back to him. "People, relax. This car won't start without the digital chip. He can turn the key, light up the dash, but it won't fire. Everything's under control." He spoke like he was calming the others, but really he was calming himself. With every steady move from the old man, his chest burned with impatience. What had started as a silly dare to entertain his friends was turning into a show, and nothing the millionaire hated more than losing control of his own act. The old man then opened his eyes. He didn't look at anyone. He just stared at the glowing dash and for the first time let a faint smile slip at the corner of his mouth. Not a smile of victory, a smile of recognition, of reunion. The crowd noticed. "He knows something," whispered a guy, phone raised to his face. The millionaire let out a fake laugh. "Of course he knows how to lose. Come on, old man, end this nonsense already. Everyone's waiting." Then the old man spoke, low but sharp enough to cut the air. "You don't get it. This car isn't just a machine, it's a heart. And hearts, when you learn to listen, always answer." A strange silence fell. For a few seconds, no one laughed. His words carried a weight that didn't match the scene of mockery. It was like he had cracked the curtain open, showing there was much more behind it. The old man adjusted himself in the seat, dropped his chin to his chest, and with slow moves slid the key in for real, turned firmer. The whole dash lit up, each light flashing in order like silent fireworks. The roar hadn't come yet, but even that scene looked impossible to those who thought he couldn't even hold a key. The millionaire, sensing the attention slipping away, clapped twice. "Very pretty. You lit up the lights. Gonna make it fly too?" The laughter came back, but not all joined. Some phones filmed more carefully. Some eyes blinked with less certainty, because they all saw. Something was there, something slipping past the jokes. The old man took a deep breath, rested his fingers on a hidden spot under the column, made an almost unseen gesture like testing a secret crack, turned the key again. The car coughed, not a roar, but a rehearsal, as if the engine woke up for a second just to prove it wasn't dead. The crowd froze. The millionaire, quick, raised his arm. "Easy. That's just the inner system. Happens all the time, means nothing." But no one seemed convinced. The old man leaned a bit more, shut his eyes again and whispered, just for himself, "I remember you." At once, his mind sank into a flash of the past. The shop smelled of burnt steel, stale coffee, and men's sweat from sleepless days. He recalled clipboards packed with numbers, presses roaring, endless tests. He remembered, above all, one night, the first digital ignition prototype that wouldn't work no matter what. It was him and two other engineers who, after hours of silence and tries, found a tiny detail that changed everything. "If there's no patience, there's no start." That line echoed in his mind. Outside, the noise of the street didn't matter. Inside the car, it was just him and the memory of what he had built with his own hands. The millionaire, bothered by the time, kicked the air and shouted, "Hurry up before you fall asleep in there. People want a show, not meditation." The old man opened his eyes, looked through the mirror, saw the crowd swelling, bystanders, workers, kids, people in suits, people in flip-flops, all waiting. He adjusted the key again, held it tight, turned. This time the car answered with a short, rough growl like an animal clearing its throat. Not the full explosion of the engine, but enough for the crowd to cry out, "Hear that? He almost did it!" The millionaire threw up his hands, laughing with scorn. "Almost is nothing. Even my grandma could do that twisting a knob." But he himself felt his pulse quicken, because that Ferrari was temperamental. Not just anyone made it cough like that, and deep down, he knew. Getting that far took more than luck. The old man, still calm, let the air out slow, looked again at the dash. Each light shining was like an old co-worker welcoming him back. He knew he was seconds from the real turn, just needed focus. The crowd leaned forward, phones rose higher, the heat pressed down. The millionaire rubbed his hands, grinning, but with sweat on his forehead. The old man closed his eyes one last time. "This is it," he muttered. He turned the key all the way. The dash flickered, the needle shook, and a dead silence filled the air. Then, like thunder splitting the night, the engine roared. It wasn't a shy sound. It was a full, fierce roar that made walls shake, windows rattle, and hearts pound. The Ferrari was alive. The crowd erupted in screams. Some clapped, others jumped, all in disbelief. He did it! My God, the old man did it! The millionaire, pale, raised his hand to his face. His mouth opened, but no words came. Minutes before, he had laughed loud. Now he had no voice. The old man kept his hands steady on the wheel. No smile, no cheer. He just let the motor growl, as if proving a point. Then he turned it off slowly, letting the echo fade into the air. He turned to the millionaire, met his eyes and said, low but clear, "You promised." The silence that followed was heavier than the roar itself, and in that moment the story stopped being a simple bet and became something far greater. The Ferrari's roar still echoed in everyone's memory, even after the old man had cut the engine. The street seemed frozen in quiet, as if every stone, every window, every held breath wanted to keep that instant forever. The millionaire, once proud and master of the show, stood frozen, pale, his crossed arms slowly dropping as if losing strength. The crowd no longer saw him as the center, but as the next player in a script gone wrong. "He started it. You saw." "He started it," said a boy, tugging at his mother's shirt. "That's impossible. This car's got digital lock," muttered another man, scratching his neck. The voices blended, forming a chorus of disbelief. But the loudest words weren't from the crowd. They were from the millionaire himself, echoing in his mind like a punch. "If he starts it, it's his." And I kneel. The old man, still seated in the Ferrari, kept his gaze steady. No arrogance in his eyes, no thrill. He just waited, as if testing if the world still had the courage to stand by its own words. He opened the door slowly, leaned on the frame, and stepped out, raising his thin, worn body before the crowd. The contrast was striking. The red Ferrari, gleaming beside a man in faded clothes and a face carved by time. But suddenly, the greatness wasn't in the car or in the millionaire. It was in the old man. "You said it was mine." His voice was clear, not raised, more reminder than demand. The millionaire swallowed hard. His friends glanced at each other, trying to laugh, but the laughs came weak, broken. "That was luck," one of them shouted. "He must have pressed something by mistake. No way." The old man didn't answer. He only turned back to the millionaire and repeated, with eyes locked, "You said it was mine." The crowd roared. "It's true. He promised. Keep your word, rich man. Neil, you said it." The millionaire tried to smile, but it cracked on his face. He raised his hands as if begging for calm. "People, let's take it easy. This was just a joke. You know how it is. A street prank. There's no contract here, right?" But the crowd didn't buy it. The murmur grew. Phones rose higher, recording every second. It was no longer just a dare between a rich man and a starving old one. It was a live show. The old man stepped forward. "A man's word is worth more than any contract. You gave yours." In front of everyone, the words were plain, but cut sharp as a blade. The millionaire felt the ground tilt. He had always believed money bought everything: respect, silence, obedience. But here, before dozens of eyes, he learned not all wealth could erase the power of a promise made public. He tried to strike back. "Listen here, old man. Maybe you started the car, but you can't even drive a machine like this. This car's not for you. It's for someone who knows how to handle it, someone with status, with power, not for a beggar." The crowd reacted badly. A wave of disapproval ran through the circle. Someone shouted, "He started it, he deserves it." Another added, "You're running from your word, coward." The millionaire flushed. Mockery, his favorite weapon, was failing. For the first time he realized his audience wasn't with him, and that terrified him. The old man stood tall, no hate in his face, only resolve. A man who runs from his own word, runs from himself. The blow landed. The millionaire looked around, seeking support, but even his closest friends weren't laughing. Some even stepped back, ashamed to be seen backing him. "Fine, fine," he said, raising his hands. "You want the car? Then take it. Let's see how you keep a machine like that. You'll end up selling it for scraps because you can't afford it. Is this what you people want to see? This car in the hands of someone who doesn't even have a place to fall dead?" The crowd split. Some muttered, unsure. Others shouted for him to keep his promise. The old man stayed calm. "I never asked for your car. You offered it. This isn't about wealth. It's about truth." The millionaire felt the hit again. With each plain sentence from the old man, his empire of pride fell apart. It was like the glass walls of his perfect image cracking under the weight of what couldn't be bought: dignity. "All right," he said, taking a deep breath, trying to pull back control. "But I won't kneel. That's too much. It was just a figure of speech." The crowd fired back. "It was a promise. Kneel. Keep your word, millionaire." The old man didn't move. He just said, "You know what you have to do." The weight of those words was unbearable. Sweat slid down the millionaire's temple. For the first time, the man who always mocked others found himself surrounded by his own shame. He tried another tactic. "Listen, old man, I'll give you money, real money, more than you've ever seen in your life. But let's forget this kneeling part, all right?" The crowd erupted in boos. "Wants to buy his own honor. That can't be paid with money." "Kneel already, coward!" The millionaire ground his teeth. Each shout mirrored his defeat. He looked at his friends, but none dared defend him. He looked at the car, but the red shine now seemed to mock him. And then he looked at the old man. The old man didn't need to say a word. He stood there, thin, hungry, but unbroken. At that moment, the millionaire realized something awful. If he didn't keep his word, he would lose everything. Not the car, but respect, his image, his aura of power. The world might forgive an arrogant man, but never a coward who breaks his own promise. He drew a deep breath. His legs shook. He stepped forward slowly. The crowd leaned in. The old man just watched, silent, and with his heart racing, the millionaire began to lower himself. One knee touched the ground, then the other. Dust stained his perfect pants. The silence broke into claps, shouts, and phones filming. There, before everyone, the millionaire was on his knees. But before the crowd could fully cheer, he lifted his head, eyes blazing with anger. "This isn't over, old man. You think you beat me? You don't know who you're dealing with. I'll still ruin you." And so, even kneeling, he tried to save what was left of his pride. The crowd answered with whistles and boos, but the old man only said, "I'm not the one destroying you. You are." And he turned, ready to walk away. The scene was far from over, because right then the real fight began. The millionaire wouldn't accept the shame, and he would do anything to take back control. The millionaire was still on his knees in the dust when he burst in rage. He stood up fast, slapping the dirt off his pants. His face, once full of confidence, was now red with disgrace. His eyes burned with fury, and his voice came out dripping with venom. "This was rigged," he shouted, pointing at the old man. "You must have messed with the car before. That's the only way. There's no chance a ragged bum like you could start a Ferrari like that." The crowd booed, but some of the millionaire's friends, desperate to save his honor, joined in. "It's true," said the guy with the shiny bracelet. "This old man must be some street trickster. People like that live by fooling others." "Of course. He probably learned to hotwire stolen cars. That's all he knows," added another, drawing a few nervous chuckles. But most didn't buy it. People had seen it themselves. They had heard the engine roar. There was no denying it. Even so, the millionaire didn't stop. He looked everywhere, desperate for a way out. "Listen up!" he yelled. "This car doesn't run without the digital key. If it started, it was luck, chance, or a glitch. Nothing more. Are you really going to believe some ragged beggar knows more than engineers worth their weight in gold?" The old man, silent until then, raised his face. His calm was almost provoking. He wasn't shaken by the yelling, the blame, or the laughs. He just looked at the millionaire with the steadiness of someone who doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. "Arrogance doesn't erase the truth. You saw it yourself," said the old man in a quiet voice. The line hit like a stone, simple, short, but impossible to deny. The millionaire snorted. "Fine, then prove it again. Start the car one more time, in front of everyone. If you do it twice, I'll shut my mouth. Go on." Show it wasn't luck. The friends cheered at this second chance like it was the saving of their boss's pride. The crowd began to murmur. The pressure was heavy. Some yelled, "Start it again." Others said, "He doesn't have to prove anything." But the noise only grew. The old man breathed deep. His eyes swept the crowd, fixed on the millionaire, and without raising his voice he answered, "I don't need to prove anything to you. I already did what you swore was impossible." Once is enough. That "no" hit the millionaire like a slap. He wasn't used to hearing refusal, even less from someone he thought beneath him. "You dare defy me?" he shouted. "I own this street. Nothing happens here without my say." The crowd laughed. This time, they laughed at the millionaire. He twisted, realizing his authority was melting away in front of everyone. "Start it, old man!" yelled the guy with the bracelet, trying to tip the game back. "If you don't, everyone will know it was luck. You want to be called a liar." The old man kept his face steady. No fear in his eyes, only weariness and wisdom. "A liar is the one who runs from his own word, and I'm not the one running." Another strike. The crowd clapped. The millionaire felt trapped like a beast cornered. With each word from the old man, his image of power crumbled. He tried another move. "You don't get it," he said, turning to the crowd. "This old man must have been part of some crime. Maybe he even helped steal cars in the past. You want to clap for a criminal?" A few frowned, but someone quickly replied from the crowd. "If he were a criminal, he wouldn't be here starving. He'd be rich like you." And another added, "A crook is the one who fools the poor with promises never kept." The millionaire lost his breath. His words, which had saved him so often in deals and parties, were useless now. The more he spoke, the more he showed his weakness. The old man, meanwhile, stayed quiet. That calm was his sharpest weapon. He didn't need to raise his tone or prove anything. The mere fact he wasn't shaken was already a victory against the other's despair. But the millionaire couldn't take the loss. He stepped forward twice, closing in on the car and pointing at the old man. "I want you to start it now, right in front of me, or I'll tell everyone you're a fraud. Gonna stay quiet? Gonna run?" The crowd booed. "You're desperate, huh? He already proved it. You're the one making excuses. Leave the old man alone." But the millionaire pressed on. "Start the car, start it. Show it wasn't luck. Show it wasn't some trick." The old man glanced at the car. His fingers, still stained with old grease, brushed the key he held. Silence dropped again, like a heavy curtain. The tension was almost solid. Then he spoke, low but steady. "You don't seek truth. You seek to patch up your pride, and pride blinds more than any darkness." The line echoed, and the crowd broke into cheers. The millionaire stepped back, gasping, trying not to show how much those words had cut. One of the friends still tried to mock. "See, he's scared. Can't start it again. It was luck, people." But no one laughed. The trick had turned back on the trickster. Now the people looked with scorn, not at the old man, but at the millionaire's friends. An older man in a hat, watching since the start, raised his voice. "This man already showed who he is. He doesn't need to repeat it. Those who demand proof again and again are the ones too afraid to face the truth." A wave of agreement rolled through the crowd. The millionaire clenched his teeth. "You'll all regret doubting me. I don't lose. I've never lost, and I won't lose today to some beggar." But the truth was plain. He had already lost. The old man slipped the key into his pocket calmly. That simple act was like a verdict. It wasn't a contest anymore. It was a lesson. The millionaire in fury pointed at him. "This isn't over. You'll see what happens to anyone who tries to shame me. I'll crush you, old man." But deep down, everyone knew the one destroying himself was the millionaire. The old man stepped forward, looked him in the eyes, and said, "No one needs to bring you down. You dig your own fall every time you speak." The crowd clapped on their feet. The millionaire, choking on disgrace, backed away. His empire of pride was collapsing before all, but he wouldn't give in. Anger flared inside him like fire, and he was ready to drag that fight to the end. The silence on the street was so thick, it felt like it pressed on everyone's shoulders. The millionaire shook with rage. The crowd waited for the next move, and the old man stood calm, the key in his pocket like a piece of his own dignity. Then something unexpected happened. A child, the same one who had tugged her mother earlier, shouted loud enough for all to hear, "Start it again, mister! I want to hear the sound." The child's innocent request pulled smiles from the crowd. The old man looked at her, and for the first time his lips curved into a real smile. It was different. Not mockery, not sarcasm. A human gesture filled with warmth. He breathed deep, pulled the key from his pocket and raised it. The millionaire smiled too, but his grin was nervous, like thinking, "Now he'll fail, and I'll be saved." The old man opened the Ferrari's door once more. The leather seat creaked under his frail body, but his moves were steady. He rested his fingers on the wheel like greeting an old comrade from war. The crowd held its breath. The millionaire took the chance to jab. "Let's see the trick again. Bet it won't work now. It was luck, and you'll prove you're just a fraud." The old man turned the key slowly. The dash lit up, each light blinking in order. He closed his eyes for a moment, listening to the signals, and muttered low, "Every engine has a voice, and if you listen with patience, it always tells the truth." People leaned forward, eager to see, eager to hear. The millionaire scratched his forehead, restless. Then came the moment. The old man pressed the start button with the calm of someone who already knew the outcome, and in a metallic, booming roar, the engine came alive again, louder, fuller than before, as if the Ferrari bowed before him, recognizing its master. The crowd exploded in cheers and shouts. Some filmed, others clapped, others just shook their heads in pure awe. "No way! He started it again, perfect! That old man's a genius." The millionaire, now completely undone, stammered, No, this is impossible, impossible." But there was no denying. The old man shut the car down gently, let silence take over, then turned to the crowd. "It's not luck. It's not magic. It's knowledge." The words dropped like thunder. He drew a long breath, and for the first time chose to reveal a piece of his story. "You look at me and only see a starving old man, torn clothes, dirty hands. But years ago, these hands built machines like this. I don't just know how to start a Ferrari. I helped design some of them." The crowd buzzed in shock. The millionaire widened his eyes, unbelieving. "Lies, that's a lie," he shouted. "You're making this up to look important." But the old man wasn't shaken. He went on, steady. "I was an automotive engineer. Spent decades inside factories and shops, creating, testing, fine-tuning. I know these cars better than anyone here. Every detail, every flaw, every secret hidden in the electronics, all of it passed through hands like mine." An older man in the crowd, white-haired, confirmed, "I remember, back in my youth I read about Brazilians working on European projects. Not impossible at all." The old man nodded and went on. "But life isn't made only of wins. I lost my family in an accident, lost my job in a crash, then lost my home. When pain is too heavy, even the strongest mind gets lost. And that's how I ended up here, forgotten, living off scraps. But the knowledge, that never left me." The crowd was silent. Every word was absorbed like revelation. The millionaire, furious, tried mocking again. "So you want them to believe a street bum was once a luxury engineer? You want them to believe a man with nothing to eat once designed million-dollar cars? Ridiculous." But the crowd no longer believed him. A woman shouted, "Ridiculous is you with all your wealth and not a drop of humility." Another added, "He showed it in action, you only talk." The old man stepped forward, staring at the millionaire. "The problem isn't you doubting me. The problem is you believing money buys intelligence. The problem is thinking luxury is worth more than character. That's what blinds you." The words cut deep. The millionaire couldn't reply. He only stammered, trying to form excuses, but none fit. Then the old man did something even more startling. He held up the key for all to see and said, "I don't want the car. I don't need it. What I wanted to show has been shown. It's not the Ferrari that gives a man his worth. It's the man who gives worth to himself." And he handed the key back. The crowd roared with cheers and claps. Some cried. That moment wasn't about wealth anymore, but dignity. About someone who, even crushed by life, still carried within him the fire of skill and truth. The millionaire, stunned, took the key back. But instead of relief, he felt defeated. Because before them all, the old man hadn't just started the car. He had started the collective truth that arrogance always falls before wisdom. The old man, back bent but step steady, began to walk away. The crowd cleared a path, respectful, as if before a king without a crown. And behind him all that remained was a millionaire with eyes burning in rage, ready to turn that shame into revenge. The key was back in the millionaire's hands, but along with it came no relief. On the contrary, it weighed like burning iron. His fingers shook, not from cold but from fury. The crowd was still buzzing from the scene they had just witnessed. The old man was already walking out of the circle, slow but firm, as if the lesson was over. But the millionaire couldn't bear it. His blood boiled in his veins. His pride was shattered, and all that remained was the desperate need to flip the story. "Hey, come back here!" he roared, pointing at the old man. Silence fell again. The old man stopped, turned his head slowly, and his calm eyes met the millionaire's flaming ones. "You don't think you're walking out of here as a hero, do you?" The millionaire went on, voice dripping with poison. "You might have started the car, but that proves nothing. Anyone can get lucky twice. I want to see you really show you understand this machine. I want to see you drive it. If you don't, everyone will know you're a fraud." The crowd reacted in shock. Some muttered, "No way he'll let the old man drive a Ferrari. This guy's lost, making up challenge after challenge just to not admit defeat." The old man breathed deep. He walked back a few steps and replied calmly, "You're not searching for truth. You're just stretching your arrogance. But if that's what you need to understand, then I accept." The crowd roared. The thought of seeing the starving old man not only start but drive a Ferrari was too unreal. Phones shot even higher. The millionaire smiled, but it was twisted, made of despair and revenge. "Good. Then get in the car. Start it and take a spin. If you manage, I kneel again. If you fail, you'll crawl before me and everyone here." The crowd shouted in chorus, "That's unfair. He already proved it. You just don't know how to lose." But the old man only nodded. "I accept." He returned to the car, opened the door and sat with calm. The seat seemed to welcome him like it remembered its true owner. The millionaire crossed his arms, trying to look in control, but the sweat on his forehead betrayed him. The old man turned the key, and the engine roared for the third time. The crowd screamed in delight. It was like a lion waking under the command of a seasoned tamer. He shifted into gear slowly, hands steady on the wheel, feet sure on the pedals. No shake, no pause. The car slid onto the street. The growl echoed through the buildings like thunder. The crowd parted, clapping. Children ran closer to watch. Men and women filmed, stunned. The old man, who minutes ago seemed invisible, now drove a Ferrari like he'd been born inside it. The millionaire, meanwhile, tried to hide his fear with mockery. "Driving straight, even I can do that. Let's see a turn. Let's see you park without scratching the paint." The old man, hearing the taunts, turned the wheel smoothly. The Ferrari answered like silk. He made a flawless curve, the engine roaring under perfect control. Then he stopped before the crowd with the precision of an artist signing his work. The applause was deafening. Some shouted, some cried. It was more than spectacle. It was justice. The millionaire, more cornered than ever, shouted again, "That proves nothing. This car's automatic. Even a child could drive it straight. You really want to show you know? Then tell me how many horses this engine has. Let's see if you know or if you're just a faker." The old man shut the car off. He stepped out calmly, closed the door, and looked straight into his eyes. "This model has 800 horses, V8 biturbo, with max torque at 7,500 revs. Drinks fuel like a beast, but runs like silk if you know how to respect the limits." The crowd exploded in screams. Everyone knew those details couldn't be made up. That was real knowledge. The millionaire went speechless. The veins on his neck bulged. "You memorized that somewhere. You're fooling no one." "I want more." He glanced around, desperate, until one of his friends whispered something in his ear. The millionaire grinned darkly. "Ah, now I know. If you're so great, then open the hood and tell us what you see. I want details. Let's see if you really know or if it's all an act." The old man walked to the front of the Ferrari. With a firm move, he opened the hood. The crowd drew close, curious. The heat of the engine still rose, the smell of burnt fuel mixing with the air. He ran his fingers over the components, like caressing a child. Then he began to speak. "Here lies the heart. Carbon fiber cables, valves tuned to cut energy loss, compact but fierce turbines. This engine was built to be both rough and refined. But I see something you probably don't notice. There's a tiny leak in the cooling pipe, almost invisible. If it's not fixed, in 2 months, you'll have a serious problem." The millionaire's eyes widened. How do you know that?" The old man replied, calm, "Because I learned to listen. Every sound, every smell, every vibration speaks. You just have to pay attention." The crowd roared louder than ever. The millionaire was cornered, no way out. Everything he tried to shame the old man only made his skill shine more. But he wouldn't give up. His wounded pride was stronger than reason. "So that's what you want? To humiliate me in front of everyone? To steal my place?" The old man shook his head. "I don't want anything from you. Life already took all I had. I just wanted you to see that a man isn't measured by what he wears or owns, but by what he carries inside." The crowd stood and clapped. Some shouted in support. "Bravo! That's a real man! Wealth can't buy wisdom." The millionaire, red-faced and trembling, couldn't take more. But instead of yielding, he screamed in despair, "This isn't over! You might have shamed me today, but I'll destroy you. I've got power, I've got money, and you've got nothing. Nothing!" The old man looked at him one last time. His voice was low, but each word felt carved in the air. "A man with only money never has anything." And he turned, walking slowly down the street, as the crowd parted in respect. But the tension hadn't ended, because at that moment was born not only admiration for the old man, but also the millionaire's thirst for revenge. The old man was already stepping away, slow but steady, when the millionaire's voice struck like thunder, heavy with spite. "Come back here, I'm not done with you." The crowd spun at once, sensing the tension hadn't reached its end. The old man stopped, turned his face and stared at the millionaire. No hate in his eyes, only a sharp calm, like someone who knows the other is drowning in his own pride. The millionaire breathed hard. His clenched fists betrayed a rage too big to contain. Sweat slid down his forehead, not from the heat of the day, but from the heat of disgrace. "You think you can beat me like this in front of everyone?" he yelled, voice cracking. "I've got one last test. Let's see if you can pass it." The crowd murmured. Some shouted to leave the old man alone. Others, hooked by the drama, urged him to accept. Phones stayed up, catching every second of the show. The old man stepped forward. "What is your test?" The millionaire grinned crooked, dark. "If you're so skilled, so wise, so full of knowledge, then starting and driving isn't enough. I want to see you strip and rebuild a vital part of the car, right here in front of all. No modern tools, no shop. If you do it, I admit defeat for good." The crowd gasped. "That's madness! He wants to wreck the car just to not lose. This man doesn't know when to stop." The millionaire, however, was already ordering his friends. "Open the trunk. Bring the box of basic tools." The boys obeyed, carrying simple wrenches, nothing close to what a Ferrari would need in a shop. The millionaire grabbed a spanner and tossed it on the ground at the old man's feet. "Show you can, engineer. Show you're not just talk. I want to see you change the spark plug in front of everyone. If you can, I'll shut up forever. If not, all will know it was a fraud." The silence weighed heavy. It was a trap. The millionaire knew working on a Ferrari in the street with simple tools was nearly impossible. He smiled, believing he'd finally found a way to regain control. The old man bent slowly, picked up the wrench with his worn hands, and looked at it like at something familiar. Then he walked to the car and opened the hood. The engine gleamed like a beating heart. "Go on, show them you're a phony," mocked the guy with the bracelet. But the old man didn't answer. He slid his fingers along the engine like reading an invisible score. He closed his eyes for a moment, breathed deep, and murmured, "Machines are like people. If you really know them, you don't need much to care for them." And then he began. His moves were slow but sure. Each action showed not guesswork, but skill. He found the fitting, set the spanner, turned with patience. The millionaire watched, biting his nails, waiting for failure. The metallic sound echoed. Clack. A part came loose. The old man lifted it, showing the crowd. It was the spark plug. A wave of surprise rolled through the circle. "He got it out!" someone shouted. "Impossible! This man's a master!" The millionaire went pale. But it wasn't over yet. The old man had to put the part back. That was the real test. With steady hands, he wiped the spark plug on a rag someone handed him. Then he set it again, threading it slowly, like stitching fine cloth. Time seemed to slow down. The millionaire was drenched in sweat. The crowd held its breath. At last, the old man tightened the fit, closed the hood, and said, "It's done." The millionaire laughed loud, but his laugh was desperate. "And how do we know you didn't break anything? How do we know it really worked? Start the car again." The old man nodded. He sat behind the wheel, turned the key, and the engine roared even cleaner than before, like thanking for the care. The crowd exploded in claps, shouts, tears. Some clapped till their hands hurt. Others lifted their phones higher to record that historic moment. The millionaire, utterly beaten, staggered back. His mouth opened, but no words came. The old man turned off the car, stepped out, and faced him. "You tested me 3 times. I started it, I drove, and I fixed it. Still gonna say it's luck?" The millionaire dropped to his knees, not by choice, but because his strength was gone. The crowd circled him with boos. He tried to rise, but had no support left. Not even his friends dared step close. The old man, standing, looked taller than ever, even in torn clothes and a tired body. He raised his voice, for the first time not calm, but strong enough to echo like thunder. Everyone here saw it. Pride falls before truth, and the truth is simple. A man's worth isn't in what he flaunts, but in what he carries inside. You lost because you don't know how to listen. Not to people, not to machines, not to life. The crowd gave him a standing ovation. Children shouted his name. People cried with emotion. Men and women clapped like at a concert. The millionaire, curled on the ground, looked smaller than ever. The old man turned, walked through the crowd, which opened as if for a king without a crown, yet with a greatness impossible to ignore. And behind him there was only the muffled sob of a man who had everything but lost the one thing that mattered most: respect. The old man walked the street, between claps and shouts, yet with the calm of someone who no longer had to prove anything to anyone. Each step carried the weight of a lifetime of losses, and at the same time, the dignity of a victory that couldn't be measured in money. The crowd parted as if he were a sacred figure, a simple man, turned into a symbol. Behind him, the millionaire stayed on his knees, not by will, but because shame and helplessness had crushed him. His friends, who once laughed and clapped at his cruel jokes, now stared at the ground, unable to meet any eyes. The mask of power had fallen, leaving only a man broken by his own pride. The crowd began chanting together, daring and loud, "Keep the promise, kneel all the way." The millionaire tried to rise, but the voices stood like walls against him. The old man stopped, turned slowly, and stared at him from afar. His eyes held no hate, only firmness. "You promised before everyone," he said, voice calm but carrying louder than every shout. "Now is the time to keep it." The millionaire bit his lip. His face flushed red, his eyes watered. He knew there was no escape. The crowd, relentless, filmed every detail. The clips were already spreading online, and within minutes the world would know that the city's most arrogant man had been brought to his knees by a starving old man. With a groan of rage and shame, the millionaire bent down. First, his hands hit the ground, then his head lowered until it touched the hot asphalt. The crowd erupted in claps and whistles. Some shouted, "Now that's it!" The word's being kept. Humility comes late, but comes. The old man didn't smile. He just watched. His eyes weighed not on the act itself, but on its meaning. He stepped closer, stopped before the kneeling millionaire, and spoke low for all to hear. "It's not me you kneel to. It's to the truth. It's to yourself, because lies one day make you pay." Those words cut deeper than any shame. The millionaire lifted his face, eyes full of tears he couldn't hide. For the first time there was no pride. There was pain. The old man went on. "You have money, power, respect bought. But all of that is empty if you don't have character. Today, before everyone, you learned that no wealth makes up for lack of humility." The crowd clapped again, but this time the tone was different. It wasn't just celebration. It was agreement. They were people recognizing in that scene a lesson that went beyond the show. The millionaire, unable to reply, stayed on his knees. His shoulders shook, and his breathing was short. A few friends tried to help him up, but he pushed their hands away, unable to accept comfort. The old man turned his back and started to walk off again. The crowd made way. An older woman wept, saying, "That man reminded us justice still exists." A young man added, "He didn't need anything, only what he already carried inside." As he walked, the old man felt something he hadn't in a long time. Respect. Not respect born of fear, nor respect bought. True respect, born of truth and experience. Reaching the edge of the street, he paused for a moment and looked back. The millionaire was still on his knees, buried in shame. And then he spoke his final lesson, voice firm, echoing like a verdict. "Remember this. The wealth you keep in your pocket can vanish overnight, but the wealth you keep in your heart and mind, no one can ever take. I lost everything, but I never lost what I know. That's what keeps me standing." The silence that followed was deep. It was no longer just a show. It was a truth that reached every soul there. The crowd began shouting the old man's name. Some cried, some raised their arms, others just stayed quiet, caught in thought. The millionaire, his face soaked with tears, lowered his head again, unable to bear the weight of those words. The old man turned and carried on his way. His steps were slow, yet firm. Every meter he covered drew eyes of admiration. He disappeared at the corner like a mythical figure, someone who appeared only to teach a lesson and then slipped back into anonymity. The crowd slowly dispersed, but no one left the same. Each person carried inside the memory of that day when a simple man defeated arrogance with calm, wisdom, and dignity. And the millionaire was left alone, on his knees in front of a car that no longer looked like a symbol of power, but of loss. His fortune stayed intact, but his pride was destroyed. For the first time he tasted the bitter truth of not being in control. The people drifted away in waves, but none really left. Some walked a few steps, stopped, looked again toward the corner where the old man had vanished, and whispered quietly. It was as if each one wanted to hold on to that moment, as if they didn't want the dust of the street to erase the memory. The millionaire, still kneeling, finally stood. But there was no triumph in his stance. He rose like a man carrying invisible stones on his shoulders. The Ferrari's shine behind him seemed to mock. The car gleamed, but its owner had no light left. The silence around him was heavy, unlike the silence before the engine's roars. This was the silence of defeat, A few friends tried to step close. "Let's go, boss. It's over. Leave it behind. We'll say it was just an act." But he shoved them away with a sharp gesture. "An act? You think the world will believe that? It's all recorded. It's already online, spinning on every screen. I've become a joke." And it was true. Many were streaming live. The video was spreading fast, along with the image of a millionaire brought down by a starving old man. Meanwhile, on the other end of the street, the old man walked slowly. His worn body showed hunger, but his spirit stood taller than ever. Some people followed him quietly, like choosing to walk behind a teacher. A child ran up and tugged his sleeve. "Mister, are you magic?" He smiled, a small smile, almost hidden. "No, son, I'm no magician. I just learned to listen. Listen to machines, listen to people, listen to life." The child's mother, moved, thanked him. "Today you taught us more than any book could." The old man nodded humbly. "I didn't teach anything. I just reminded you of something that's always been here. Dignity can't be bought. It can only be lived." Those words echoed in the minds of all who followed. It was like each one had received a spark from the fire burning inside him. Back at the circle where the Ferrari still stood, the millionaire tried to recover his pose. He pulled at his jacket, fixed his hair, but nothing hid the lost look. He knew he hadn't just lost a challenge, he had lost the trust of his crowd. And more, he had lost his mask. "You saw, didn't you?" he muttered. "He humiliated me. He crushed me in front of you." But no one replied. The silence from the crowd was worse than shouts. There were no more claps, no more laughs around him, only cold stares that said without words, "You're not who we thought you were." The old man, already at a distance, stopped once more. He turned slowly. His voice, tired yet strong, reached even the last in the crowd. "Wealth without wisdom is like a car without steering. It might run fast, but it gets nowhere. What holds a man up isn't what he owns, but who he is." The millionaire, hearing that, felt as if a blade cut through his chest. Because deep down he knew it was true. He had everything, yet he had nothing. He had paid friends, bought applause, fake respect, but he never had what the old man showed, character. The crowd clapped, not with thrill, but with reverence. It was a different clap, one that stays in memory. People looked at each other with wet eyes. Some even repeated the old man's words like a prayer. "It's not what he has, it's who he is." And so the final lesson carved itself into every heart. The old man then turned for good and vanished into the streets, leaving no trace. He didn't take the Ferrari, didn't take money, didn't take anything material. But he carried away something no thief could steal, the respect of all. The millionaire, though, stayed behind, alone, facing his own wreck. He looked at the Ferrari, but for the first time the car seemed empty, meaningless. He touched the metal and muttered, "What's the point of having the world if I've lost myself?" That question, spoken low, no one answered. Maybe because the answer was clear. Maybe because everyone knew it was already too late for him. But for those who watched, for the children who would never forget the scene, for the men and women who went home that night, there was one certainty. They had witnessed something rare. Not a miracle, but proof that truth always finds a way to win. And so, that day, on an ordinary street, a starving old man became a symbol that life can strip you of everything, but never of wisdom, a symbol that arrogance always kneels before dignity. The final lesson stayed etched in every glance, in every heart. It's not what you keep in your pocket that matters, but what you carry inside. And that was the old man's greatest victory, showing the world that even in misery, a man can hold the greatest treasure of all, the truth.